Back to pass for the Swedes is Ty Owens, and he fires and it's picked off. Picked off. Josh Sears going to run it back for the touchdown. Thresher. Hello and welcome to the Thresher Football Show. I'm Dan Page alongside head football coach at Bethel, Josh Lawson, as the Threshers start the season 0-2. But Coach, it's a 33-7 loss this last week against McPherson. But I felt like there were things that were going in the right direction in that game.
Yeah, I mean, if we just start the game off the way we played throughout the second half of the second quarter and the entire second half, we would be in that game. But the thing you can't do when you're as young and inexperienced as us is let people get up on you quick. So we got to do a better job of starting the game off fast.
Yeah, this time, I mean, we talked about in the first game, not a lot of turnovers. This time there was way too many, right? And, at some point you had to learn from those things, whether it was the ball exchange or interceptions, things like that. But, I agree. I mean, it just felt like you guys arguably won the second half against them, against a very talented team. I mean, everybody looks at the box score and sees all the numbers they had from passing and, things like that. But I don't think there's a stat that measured the growth of your team in that game.
Yeah, I mean, our team, and that's the thing that we talk about all the time. We just got to be better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we are today. And with a team that basically when you're rebuilding like we are right now, you just have to you have to measure yourself against yourself. And we made a lot of strides last week. Obviously, nobody's happy with losing by 30 points, but also, our team did a lot of stuff a lot better, and so we just have to grow from that and every day get a little bit better.
Yeah, certainly. Secondary got definitely tested in the game against McPherson. It still feels like a strength for you guys as well. I mean, you managed to have 2 interceptions, and I think, the same amount of pass breakups as the first game. So, I mean, it was there were some things. Yes, they found their ways to score, and you learned from playing the game, of course. But, I mean, there's definitely some good things. And then, I was kind of looking at your offense a little bit. I felt like they protected the passing game better than I expected, honestly. I mean, yes, there was a couple sacks, but Byron did a great job of getting out of the pocket when it was clouded like that and getting the ball out.
Yeah, he's doing a lot better job of stepping up in the pocket and instead of going east and west, and that's something that we work on a lot with him. And he's being really coachable right now, so it's something I'm proud of him. And he ran the ball a couple of times the other night and got hit, and I think that's one thing that's probably been in the back of his mind is what's it going to feel like to really get hit. He got hit a few times and was able to get up and play, and I think that gave him the confidence to know that, like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely saw a lot of development from that first game against Southwestern to the game against McPherson. The run just there in the fourth quarter, you guys looked really good on offense, throwing the football. We were able to throw to Noah out of the backfield a little bit. Got big passes to Ben Vincent was huge. He had 3 catches for 77 yards as a freshman. He led you in receiving. He did a great job, and Tariq Streets, Josiah Buller, again another touchdown for you guys. Kai Norris with a catch, and obviously Trayvon Madison. But Byron in the game, 16 of 34 for almost 250 yards and touchdown and 2 interceptions in it. But throwing for 250 your second game as a college quarterback and attempting 34 passes is huge.
Yeah, I mean, our offensive line really stepped up and did a good job in protection. I tell you, I think McPherson's a really, really good football team, and they're big, they're strong, they're physical. Coach Fiskus has had a few years there to recruit the kind of kids that he wants, and so on the offensive line and defensive line, they're big and strong kids. So I felt like our offensive line did a really good job of holding their own, especially having 2 freshmen in there starting all night and having some young guys playing. But Ben, like you said, Ben stepped up, made some big catches, and I think Ben's got a bright future here. And we got some other receivers who, same thing, they got a bright future here. Thing that we have to do is we have to just be consistent all the time, and I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I definitely, the passing game was huge. Yes, it had to be because, McPherson's defense was good against the ground game, only giving up 30 rushing yards. Their front line was impressive. Number 99, Lester Amos, you talked about him before the game, and he was just as advertised. He did pretty well against you guys, and you had to get a little creative with your running backs and using those. And it's been a few years since we've thrown out of the backfield to a running back. I always felt like that was a phase of the passing game that we really needed to exercise, and Noah did a great job for you guys and has so far this season. Kind of flipping over, I mentioned your defense a little bit. 4 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, gave up 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns. Isaiah Rivera led you guys in tackles with 12. He did a pretty good job. Jarek Woodley, 8 tackles. Lyric, 6 tackles. I mean, you're getting some of your linebackers more involved there a little bit. And then I mentioned Avery Richardson, he had an interception. Kevin Hill, 4 tackles and a tackle for loss from a safety is always huge. Not to mention the interception. I mean, you guys did a great job as far as safeties go, making sure the deep ball wasn't always there.
Yeah, I mean, our guys are getting better at what we're trying to ask them to do. We're a route reading team, and so trying to get their eyes where they're supposed to be. A lot of safeties and linebackers, they love to look in the backfield, but the quarterback is a liar. He's not going to tell you anything you're supposed to know. And so we're getting better at getting our eyes where they're supposed to be. We can be a lot better at that. At times you can see when there are some pass plays that are wide open, it's usually because we're staring in the backfield and not finding and reading our routes.
Yeah, that first touchdown pass just completely caught everybody off guard. I mean, they showed run, we bid on it hard, and a very talented player took it to the house. And he was the conference player of the week. I think he was national player of the week on offense for the NAIA. Very talented Jaleel Brown, running back for McPherson. Frank Driscoll got a sack for you guys. You're able to get some pressure, which I thought was good. The interior D linemen, the young guys that we have, I feel like they stepped up in the game.
Yeah, we were able to get a little creative with some of our pressures. Tried to stay out of our man stuff and tried to get into some zone blitz stuff there, and it helped us. Obviously, both teams didn't have a lot of film. They didn't have a lot of film on us and what we were going to look like this year, and vice versa. And so, I think early in the game that really was to our detriment because there were some things that they were doing, getting an imbalance that was giving us some problems. And but vice versa, they didn't have a lot of film on us. And once our guys settled down and started playing, there were some things we were able to do to help ourselves.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's picking on you a little bit, but the play calling, the first 2 games, trick plays, big plays against you guys, just kind of a welcome to the KCAC kind of feel to it. I have a feeling that may not happen this week.
Well, I don't know. I think the thing that's happened in both those games is the offenses were put in really good field position, and when you let an offense start a game in really good field position, they got the playbook open, and so they're like, hey, we've been working on this trick play all week, let's run it. It would not surprise me, according to the field position, if Friends doesn't come out and run a reverse pass or throw a wheel route or something else, So, 2 games in a row we've given up a long touchdown pass on a reverse or some kind of trick pass play, so it would not surprise me a bit.
Yeah, and then other things I wanted to talk about, Josh, he was back for you guys at safety as well. He had 2 tackles, 3 pass breakups, or Josh Sears, I should say. There's more than one Josh back there, but Josh did great, 3 pass breakups. I felt like he was kind of had that pass breakups is kind of like a not very high build stat, but it's so important to your coverage on defense.
I think when you look at the best DBs in the country, you're going to see the ones who have the most pass breakups tend to be the best DBs. No, Josh played a good game. He had an opportunity for an interception, and I thought he had it, but he covered the route perfectly. I just would have been great if he would have came down with that interception there. But no, Josh does a great job. He's one of the older guys. He's played a lot of college football, and so he understands it. And, there was one play where they didn't catch the ball, but he got beat on it. And as soon as we got in the locker room at halftime, he came to me and he was like, "Hey, Coach, they're probably going to come back at me because I let that guy get past me." So it's good when you have a player that has as much experience as he has and understands how the game flows and what could happen to him.
It's interesting. You see a lot of football games where the offense will test their best receiver against your best defensive back, and just the matchup to see what they can do over the course of the game. And Josh has kind of fallen in line with a lot of good defensive backs here at Bethel in recent years, and I felt like he definitely held his own. So let's look at some other scores from the second games of the season. It's technically week 1, but Friends, who Bethel plays this week at Friends in Wichita, won 62-7 against Avila on the road. Avila scored the opening touchdown, and Friends scored 62 unanswered. So big for them. We'll talk about them more in a little bit. Ottawa winning 35-27 against St. Mary. Kansas Wesleyan 38-7 at Bethany, and then a pretty good, well, I'll say this one for last. Evangel winning 51-14 against Sterling in Nixon, Missouri, and then Southwestern and Tabor over in Hillsboro was quite the game. I really didn't know what to expect because, Southwestern seemed like they would win that game by more than one touchdown, and it was a 28-21 ball game, but Tabor gave them a fight.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. We knew there was going to be one or two teams that didn't really show well in week 1 that were going to show well in week 2. And I think one of the things that you talk about is, sometimes it's hard as a coach to motivate your team when you win by 50, 60 points the week before. You think you're invincible, and you look at the opponent and how they played the week before, and you think, oh, well, we're going to roll over this team. And college football is just not like that. You got to come out every week. We saw it Florida and South Florida this week. You see it at every level of football. If you're not ready to play, anybody can beat you.
Yes, and Tabor always plays well at home, always. And Bethel has to go there this year, later down the season, for an afternoon kickoff. Well, that was last week. Kind of just looking at this week, it's Bethel against Friends, a 6 o'clock kick at Air Austin Stadium in Wichita, and we are hoping, we're knocking on wood, we're doing everything for no rain and no cold weather, because 5 out of the last 7 years, it's been one or the other.
I'll take all the rain and all the cold weather I can get Saturday.
Yeah.
Obviously they're a triple option team, so make that ball get on the ground as much as possible. That's what I'm hoping for.
It seems like when it has been those weather games, we're the ones that were always most affected. They seem pretty firm on it. They're used to going under center. When you snap in the shotgun with a wet ball, that kind of presents some challenges as well. But currently not in the forecast for this week's game against Friends. But you see your first Flexbone team and Friends, and just kind of thinking lately, if you looked at the Division I ranks, Army against Kansas State this last week goes up into Manhattan and wins, and I think K-State only ran 4 plays the whole second half, and that was huge. But that's just the Flexbone for you. It's going to be, they're going to take the ball away from you, and they're going to use every second of the play clock. Yeah,
it's a unique offense, and it's something that you only see once a year, and so it's a challenge. Obviously, the big thing you have to do is you have to match their physicality, and you have to be great with your discipline. And if you do those things, you give yourself an opportunity. So the flex bone is something that, to be honest with you, I always say I wish I could play the flex bone week 1. because then you get a couple of weeks during fall camp to prepare for it. But when you're a young team like us, we don't have a whole lot of time that we can give up just for the flex bone like I would if we were an older team. So we really don't get to start on it until the week of. Now, once our team gets a little bit of age behind them in the years in the future, we'll take 10 or 15 minutes a day and work on it. But this year we had to basically say, hey, we got to prepare and try to get better every day, and then we'll worry about the flex bone when it comes.
Yeah, certainly a team that they prepare for every single look they're going to get from a defense with the flex bone and friends. They're looking at every different option. Obviously, with some of your younger players and their ability to cut block a little bit on the ball side of things, that's going to be something new. And figuring out how to be physical in making the play is going to be a big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a game of physicality. It's a unique offense, and I don't know about they prepare for every look they can get, but
that's what
I think everybody does that. Yeah.
Once upon a time, a man in your seat said that to me, so it always stuck with me for all the years. But they have some big O-linemen up front that definitely opens up some big holes for them. Their center and their two guards, a minimum of 6'2", 270 guys. They're big fellas. They're definitely going to present some challenge. They have a lot of depth on the offensive line. Heck, they have a lot of depth at a lot of positions, for all things spoken there. But, a team that runs for 536 yards per game this season. They've only thrown for 85, 18 rushing touchdowns, and 1 touchdown pass so far. But a guy that's been a kind of a mainstay the last few years in the conference, probably the oldest quarterback in the conference, Cavante Baker. He's rushed for 6 touchdowns so far this year and 161 yards. But they definitely they share the wealth just like that staff did here at Bethel once upon a time. Nick Cordova is their B-back. He's huge for them. He has 177 yards rushing. Darian Sykes, a big player for them. And then, they've had 13 guys on their team run the ball for them. So the way that they teach it is they will be prepared whoever's in the game. But a big part of their offense, especially on the edge, is their A-backs or their slot backs blocking downfield. And Bethel, in the past, we've done really well against that.
Yeah, I mean, this game, again, it's just all about being physical. At the end of the day, we got to read our keys and we got to react extremely fast. And if we do that, we give ourselves a chance. If we're hesitant, if you give them a gap, they're going to run through it. That's what I tell. I've coached against the triple option for a long time, and every year I've ever coached against, some years we've knocked it dead. Some years we've given up 60 points. And the thing that when you knock it dead is when your guys aren't hesitant. It's when they're hitting it. You got to take out the dive. You got to take out the quarterback. You got to make them go to pitch. You got to make them pitch the ball. Anytime you can make them go backwards with the ball, you're doing yourself a favor. And so that's what we got to do. Their quarterback he's been in that offense for a while now. He knows how to run it. He runs it well. And I think that we have to make him think about what he's doing. And so I think if we can do that, we'll give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, certainly. He can definitely get out, and he's a physical runner as well. He can definitely get tacklers to get off him as well, and he definitely uses that. I know sometimes he pump fakes. I don't know why people fall for that a lot of the time because, I followed him. I've covered him since he was in high school, and the passing just hasn't really been his strength over the years. In fact, in the playoffs last year, they had to, do like a halfback type pass to pass the football against teams, and they won games here like that as well. So it's kind of switching over to their defense a little bit. They're unique on both sides of football. Simple philosophy as far as that goes, but they're going to send like kamikaze type blitzes at you. There might be 1 or 2 players whole game that just are sending blitzes to you. In fact, Cade Miller, that was his assignment just about every time when he was in this defense. So they're going to present a lot of pressure. Yeah,
they're going to bring a lot of pressure. They're a gap read defense, and so as they're blitzing, they're going to read the guard or read the tackle, whoever it is, wherever, if the blitz is coming inside or outside. it's based off some based off what I call Big Ten blitzes. It's not the traditional Big Ten blitzes that you're used to seeing, but it's a lot of it's based off the Big Ten blitzes. What we got to do a good job of is just understanding that at the end of the day, we have a chance to gap them out if we'll do a good job washing them down and kicking them out when it's time to kick out, or if we'll just, block our zone, whatever it is. We just have to do a good job of having our eyes in the right place and moving our feet and making them work for everything.
Yeah, their defense, 19 tackles for loss, 11 sacks. They definitely bring it from all different angles. It'll be certainly a challenge for you guys. Have you seen the prowling on their D-line and on film or anything like that? That's one of the more unique things. I don't really know the benefit of it, to be honest with you, but I mean that's something that teams could perhaps play with the count and get something from it.
Yeah, well, the thing that they do to keep from jumping off sides is they back up about 3 yards, so they're not on the line of scrimmage. They're backed up about 3 yards, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume it's to keep them from jumping off sides in those situations, but at the end of the day, it's really no different than their blitzes when they're on the line of scrimmage. It's just they're doing it from a backed up and from a stand up position, and again, we just have to do a good job of blocking our zones and when it's time to block our zones, and kicking out when it's time to kick out, and making sure our eyes are up and seeing what's happening.
Yeah, they've certainly been efficient. They shut out their opponents in 5 different quarters of the 8 that they played this year, giving up 10 points a game, holding teams to 143 yards rushing and 93 passing. Turnovers is not something that they've necessarily created a lot of, 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery so far. But they definitely make it difficult, and especially if you're going to have situations where a drop snap or having to adjust to that or things like that, or a bad exchange, it's going to be you got to get on the football kind of a thing. So, and they're always good special teams as well. Friends is kind of known for having a really good kicker in the past. I mean, they've won games on kickers in recent years for this group. So, when you see their special teams on film, what do you see? Yeah,
their kickoff specialist, he does a great job. He kicks the ball deep. He puts it between the numbers and the hash, or numbers in the sideline. Sorry, almost every time on kickoff. Their punter the punter we saw last week was special, and the punter we're going to see this week, he can boom it. So they have some good specialists, and they've gotten a lot of practice at kicking off in the last 2 games. Not a whole lot of practice on punting. So it'll be interesting. We're trying to look at some things on how we can take advantage of some places that maybe we have a chance to. And, but yeah, their special teams are really good.
Yeah, it seems like I'm going to point out, kickoff return for us. We really haven't yet to really get that going, with the wedge and things like that. Luckily some teams, McPherson had a lot of touchbacks and things like that. But Southwestern, they were keeping us under the 20 to start the drives when they were, they were blowing it up and things like that. So I'd imagine that you guys are working pretty hard on that.
Yeah. Obviously, we're working hard on it. Again, the speed of the game for these guys is just something that they have to get used to. And kickoff is one of those things that, when you have older guys on kickoff that are used to just running down and sprinting and know that it's just, hey, go blow something up, that's something that we got to get used to. I thought we did a better job last week. Our returners have to know when to return it and when not to, when to fair catch it. Against Southwestern, we had a couple of opportunities. We just didn't line it up right. And then last week, the kicker did a good job with his hang time. And to be honest with you, we probably shouldn't have returned any of them last week.
Yeah, you kind of learn that on the fly. I mean, I know a lot of teams in pregame, they're looking at, kicker, punter. They're figuring out, okay, how far can he boot it? We need to know where to set our guy back deep, things like that.
If you're waiting until pregame to figure that out, you're in trouble anyway.
Well, I know that. Yeah, but you see it on film, but yeah, you're just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and things like that. I know some coaches, things like that they will do that, but yeah, I mean, it's just that's just kind of the nature of things sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the Threshers go up against the Friends Falcons this week. Friends has won 2 or 3 games in a row in the series since Terry Harrison and his staff have come on there. I mean, it's been, I think 2022 was the last time Bethel won at Friends, and it was a 28-16 game, and again, another wet game and things like that. And last year it was a 28-0 football game, and both teams were affected by the weather a little bit. But who knows what it's going to be with fair skies? I mean, when you're a team that you're capable of running that much, it could be a track meet and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the Threshers manage things. I think clock management is going to come up huge, and just ball control in this football game. I'd imagine that's been on your mind quite a bit, and as far as making the most of your opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, we got to make the most of our opportunities, but the thing we have to do on defense is we have to create turnovers. That's we have to give ourselves more opportunities than you would in a normal game. So we have to be smart about what we do and when we do it, and we have to give our offense field position that they feel free to run plays and we can't let them be backed up all night. And that's something that we were awful at game 1. We were a little better game 2. Now game 3, we have to do a really good job of it.
Yeah, certainly. A big challenge this week for the Threshers as they travel to Wichita to take on Friends. And around the corner, Bethel's next home game's coming up on September 20th, and that's going to be a home game against Kansas Wesleyan, another tough one, an evening game, September 20th at 6 o'clock. But before we get to that, it's Friends this week, and kind of running down the conference schedule. A big game in Winfield this week is Evangel at Southwestern. We're going to learn a lot about those two teams, and they're thinking they're both relieved that they're not in each other's division anymore. But it's going to be a very, very good football game. Avila's at Kansas Wesleyan, so the Coyotes at home. That's all the rest of the games are 6 o'clock outside of Evangel and Southwestern this week. Bethany is at St. Mary. One of those teams is going to get a win this week, and it'll be interesting to see who the better of those two is. And Tabor's going to McPherson. That could be a pretty good one. It typically has in recent years. I mean, Tabor's recruited McPherson pretty hard, but they've kind of got a little mini rivalry going between those two schools. So I think that'll be that. Other than the Evangel Southwestern game, that one sticks out to me. And then Ottawa is at Sterling. Sterling last 2 weeks has managed to score 2 touchdowns in both games. Definitely seems like an improvement from last season for Coach Reggie Langford's group. But just kind of looking at this week in the conference, what sticks out to you?
Well, I think what you said is exactly right. I think everybody is interested to see what happens with that Southwestern Evangel game. Going to be 2 completely different offenses going up against each other. Southwestern spreads it out a little bit more. Evangel's going to put it in the box a little bit more, and it's going to be a physical game, one way or the other, whether you want it to be or not. It's going to be a physical game, and so I think that'll be the one that'll be interesting. I think, like you said, Tabor and McPherson will be interesting. I know Coach Fiskus will have those guys ready, but Tabor has a little confidence right now, so it'll be interesting to see how those games turn out.
So, again, running down those one more time. Evangel at Southwestern at 11 a.m. and Avila at Kansas Wesleyan at 6. Bethany at St. Mary at 6. Tabor at McPherson at 6. Ottawa at Sterling at 6. And Bethel at Friends at 6 o'clock. You can watch all those games on the KCAC network. It's really for free, absolutely for free. And it's a great thing for the fans if they want to watch another game that's going on and maybe on the road to to the game you're going to, that's available to you and things like that. So again, just reminding people a few things before we wrap up this week's program. Again, next home game is September 20th against Kansas Wesleyan at 6 o'clock. What'd you think of your first home game in the turnout?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't even look at it. I'm so focused on what we have to do and our team that I don't even know. I don't know how many people were there. There might have been 10,000 people there. There might have been 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope people will come out and watch us and keep supporting these young men. They're working hard every day, and they deserve the support of the Bethel people. And hopefully soon we'll give them something to cheer about.
Yeah, certainly. I think everybody sees where this team is and understands the process that's going on and does see the growth and improvement. But again, that next home game, September 20th against Kansas Wesleyan at 6 o'clock. And then, again, I'm putting it on your calendar because they always put this out there for the Bethel community. The Fall Fest football game is October 4th against Sterling. Should be a good game, by the way. So that first weekend in October is a great thing for the Bethel community. The 1975 Bethel football team is going to be gathering, so a lot of alumni and things like that. And so hopefully you get a chance to network a little bit and get to meet some of those fellas. But just running a few other things. The NAIA polls, there'll be a new poll next Monday for those that follow the grand scheme of things. Friends is currently still at number 12, Southwestern at number 14, but we'll see what happens over the weekend if that changes or anything like that. So that's a lot of the details. Coach, I'm going to leave it to you again and just final message for this week's program.
Yeah, I think the message this week is physical, smart football. That's what we got to play. That's what we need to do. On both sides of the ball, we just have to line up and do our job on every single play. And, it's going to be a challenge, and I look forward to it. I think the kids look forward to it. And, I think we're probably at the point of our football team where we only maybe have one or two guys on the team that played for or recruited by Coach Harrison, and so I know it means a lot to those guys, but we just got to play physical football and got to play smart football.
Yeah, you certainly do. And that's at 6 o'clock in Wichita at Air Austin Stadium. If you want to, there should be enough time. The Bethel volleyball team plays at home against Midwestern State at 2 o'clock. I'll be doing the play-by-play of that one, and then it should wrap up by 4. You have enough time to make it down to Wichita and support the Bethel football team because Coach Leak is, she's got her team battling and they're getting ready to jump into conference play as well. And I remember just kind of talking to you a couple weeks ago about, getting to know everybody in the building. And she's probably one of the most organized and hard-working people I think I know coach-wise.
Yeah, she does a great job. She's played a really hard out-of-conference schedule, which is good for her and her program. And they've beaten some teams that a lot of people think that they probably shouldn't have been able to beat. But she does a good job with those girls, and they're a disciplined team. They play hard. They play for each other, and that's important.
Yeah, certainly. And, everybody across the board, every sport, things like that here at Bethel College, always looking to support each other. You're all in the same boat together. You all do, professional development and leadership development together, and can't wait to see what this weekend ends up with the results. Again, if you want to watch it, Bethel volleyball against Midwestern State at 2 o'clock on the KCAC network this coming Saturday, and then if you can't make it down to Wichita, watch the football game at 6 o'clock on the KCAC network. That's going to do it for this week's program. Appreciate everybody watching, whether you're a recruit, a family of a player, fans, alumni, a student. We do this, for you guys to make this experience really special. And I don't do this to gain anything from it. I think this is something that these guys deserve because they're busting their tail, whether in the classroom or on the playing sports, things like that. They are worth recognizing, and the highlighting of their successes is what I look forward to every week. So for this week's show, for Coach Josh Lawson, I'm Dan Page, telling you again to roll on.